Reconciliation? Can monsters and humans reconcile? Don't joke around. Lai Yan's group of seals rolled their eyes again. Yun Chujio continued with a smile. I know that the reason why you are harassing the humans is for food. Bring me to your living area and I will check the sky fire. Perhaps I can extinguish some of the sky fire. In that case, the remaining sky fire can still be your defense barrier. Moreover, as the sky fire decreases, there will be more fish, so you don't have to be on the same level as the humans. Of course, you can disagree. However, this is your only chance. Otherwise, if you really provoke the humans and they unite to seal the sea surface, you will starve to death. Moreover, if you attack the islanders frequently, your cultivation time will be greatly reduced. It is not worth the loss. After an hour of Yun Chujio's Lai Yan, the leaders of the Raging Flame Seals decided to give it a try and bring Yun Chujio into their territory. They felt that this would bring them no harm. Although this little girl was abnormal, she would not be able to play any tricks in their territory. After Yun Chujio and Lai Yan had finished discussing, she rode on the red carp and swam to the big ship. She said to the crowd, I want to follow Lai Yan and Lai Yan to their nest. You guys wait here. Of course, if you have something urgent, just let my two companions wait for me. As Yun Chujio was quite far away from the big ship, the crowd didn't hear what Yun Chujio said. They were so curious that they wanted to die. What the hell? How could those fire seals coexist peacefully with Lai Yan? And they even agreed to let her go to their nest? Island Master Kong couldn't help but ask, Miss Yun, those fire seals agreed to let you go to their nest? Why did they agree? Yun Chujio said with a smile, Why didn't they agree? I'm not going to hurt them. I'm just going to visit them. Island Master Kong, weren't humans and demon beasts incompatible with each other? Weren't the Raging Flame Seals afraid that this little girl would Lai Yan? Wasn't this little girl afraid that the Raging Flame Seals would eat her? Island Master Kong and the others shook their heads. They felt that they didn't have enough brains. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao tried to stop them but to no avail. They suggested that they should go with them. Yun Chujio waved her hand and said, I can pass through the heavenly fire zone. You won't be able to. Just wait for me here. Don't worry, I know what to do. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao knew that although Yun Chujio was bold, she wouldn't do it recklessly. Perhaps she already had a plan in mind, so they didn't insist. After a few words of advice, Island Master Kong and the others saw that Yun Chujio insisted, so they didn't say anything more. After all, they weren't related, so a few words of advice was already enough. Therefore, Yun Chujio rode on the red carp, surrounded by the group of blazing sea seals, and headed toward the Sky Fire District. Lai Yan was not afraid of the blazing sea seals, but she was afraid of them. As they approached the Sky Fire District, the temperature became higher and higher, and the fog became thicker. Fortunately, the blazing sea seals were familiar with the route, so they avoided the hottest part of the Sky Fire District and the Whirlpool District. Yun Chujio had the beads of Guai Chao and the water-repellent beads, so she was not afraid of the hot water at all. Besides, this guy also had the fire-repelling bead. Although these were hot air and not flames, the fire-repelling bead could still play a role. This guy was proud of himself. Did you see that? There were still benefits to being greedy for money. If she did not have these treasures, would she be safe and sound? Therefore, she had to carry out her greed to the end. The Flaming Seals had originally planned to watch Yun Chujio's fun. They thought to themselves, this little girl doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. She will definitely be scalded by the hot water and cry out loud. Let's see how she will be able to show off then. Lai Yan's eyes lit up. They did not expect Yun Chujio to be completely fine. She was still humming a little tune. She wanted to be more relaxed and at ease. The flaming seals that were gloating over Lai Yan's misfortune immediately wilted. This human little girl was not only a pervert with her spiritual beast, she was also a pervert. After passing through a few heavenly fire zones, Yun Chujio finally arrived at the living area of the flaming seals. This was a blue sea area with a few large reefs scattered around. The pups of the flaming seals were playing on it. It was indeed a paradise for the flaming seals. Of course, The only bad thing about this paradise was that all the fucking fish had been eaten. Other than some aquatic plants, the rest of the food had been eaten by the Lai Yen seals. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. No wonder these foodies took the risk to go out and harass the islanders. They had no choice but to do so. Seeing that the Lai Yen seals were so hungry that they began to gnaw on the grass, Yun Chujio showed a rare kindness. In any case, there were many demon beast corpses in this storage ring, so she took out some and fed them to the Lai Yen seals. The raging flame seals fully understood the saying, "A mother with milk is a mother," and Lai Yen was a mother. The attitude of the raging flame seals, who originally despised the red carp, changed drastically. They changed from defensive hostility to flattery, and all of them swam around a certain Geo. The red carp was an honor. What did this mean? It meant that it was the one with the farthest vision. Those idiots actually denounced it? To idiots without foresight. Yun Chujio discovered that the living area of the flaming seal was surrounded by heavenly flames. The west side was an island inhabited by humans, but what about the east side? Lai Yen and Yun Chujio were both shocked. Yun Chujio explained her question, and the red carp mysteriously explained, "Master, there's a monster in the east." Yun Chujio almost fell off the reef. A monster? You guys are clearly monsters, okay? The red carp saw that Yun Chujio did not believe it. It became anxious. "Master, what I said is true. There's really a monster in the east. If we didn't have the protection of the heavenly fire, we would have been eaten by it long ago. Do you know why we don't have any fish here? One is that we can eat more, and the fish upstream were eaten by that monster." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "You've been talking for a long time. What does the monster look like?" "The monster doesn't look like it," the red carp said seriously. Yun Chujio was so angry that she almost kicked the red carp away. "What do you mean it doesn't look like it?" "The monster is just a cloud of fog, but after being wrapped by it, it will be eaten by it. We didn't know before that many of our companions were eaten by the monster. From then on, we didn't dare to go to the east. Actually, the area in the east is much larger than the area in the west. However, I reckon that the fish inside have been eaten by the monster. Fortunately, we have the protection of the heavenly fire. Otherwise, none of us would have survived." The red carp said with lingering fear. "A mass of fog?" Yun Chujio frowned. She had once encountered a mass of fog. The Shueramo she met in the Divine Axe pit was just a mass of red fog. Could it be that the so-called monster in the east was a demon? Yun Chujio felt that the doubts in her heart were getting deeper and deeper. Why did the demon that was said to have been extinct appear again and again? Could it also be related to the divine devil hall? Could it be that these heavenly flames were to suppress that demon? If that was the case, then the heavenly flames could not be moved. Otherwise, wouldn't it be terrible if the demon was released? Yun Chujio was hesitant. Should she take the risk to see the so-called monster? Just as Yun Chujio was hesitating, the shrill cry of the Lai Yen seal came from afar. Yun Chujio was stunned. She stood on the reef and looked into the distance. She saw a large group of Lai Yen seals fleeing in panic. The red carp swam at the front. "Master, run. Run." The monster actually passed through the seal of the heavenly fire. It has already eaten several of our companions. Yun Chujio frowned. There was a cloud of black fog moving rapidly towards them from a distance, accompanied by the screams of the Lai Yen seals. Some of the Lai Yen seals were especially slow. They were the first to suffer. Seeing that Yun Chujio did not move, the red carp urged her anxiously, "Master, don't just stand there. Run. I'll be too late if you don't run now." "Run? Where do we run to? If the heavenly fire can't stop it, where can we run to? I will go and meet the so-called monster. You carry me there." The red carp actually refused in its heart because it was afraid of death. If it was not afraid of death, it would not have run so fast. This was the result of many escape experiences. However, it did not dare to disobey Yun Chujio's orders. It could only carry Yun Chujio and swim towards the black fog. However, the speed of this creature was very, very slow. It could not swim as fast as those pups. It was almost as fast as rubbing against them. Yun Chujio snorted coldly. If you continue to dawdle, all your companions will be eaten up. At that time, all the raging flame seals will be dead, and only you will be left. Do you think you will be happy? Lai Yen asked. The red carp gritted its teeth. Although it was still afraid, it still gritted its teeth and carried Yun Chujio as it rushed towards the black fog at the fastest speed in its life when it thought of the companions it spent every day with. At first, the red carp was still afraid, but gradually, the courage in its heart gained the upper hand. Although it was in the opposite direction from the rest of the fire seals, and was the only one who went against the flow, Lai Yen was still afraid, but in its heart, there was a sense of mission and pride that it had never felt before. Although it was not sure if the human girl on its back could save its race, it had no choice but to do so. Other than the red carp, the few leaders did not escape either. They chose to stay where they were and would rather sacrifice themselves to protect their young. Yun Chujio's heart was filled with an indescribable emotion. No matter if it was humans or beasts, when faced with danger, there would always be some people who would go against the flow. It was either because of family ties or because of responsibility. Even though they knew that there was a bottomless abyss ahead, they would still go forward bravely without turning back. Yun Chujio's body suddenly flashed with a dazzling light. This fellow had actually broken through because of an epiphany. After breaking through, this fellow's face was filled with confusion and bewilderment. She had broken through from the 5th level of the spiritual void tier to the 7th level of the spiritual void tier? Didn't they say that only lightning could break through? How could she break through just by thinking about it? Did this mean that she would be able to break through without lightning in the future? This guy was confused. The red carp she was riding was even more confused, okay? Oh my God, what kind of pervert was it carrying? At such a critical moment of life and death, she actually broke through? It was simply unbelievable. The few flame seal leaders also looked at Yun Chujio in confusion. Firstly, they were surprised that she did not escape, and secondly, they were also surprised that she had actually broken through. Lai Yen and Yun Chujio had broken through to the 7th level of the spiritual void tier. The black fog stopped advancing temporarily and gradually transformed into a man in a black robe. The man looked very seductive. His eyebrows were raised, and he was indescribably charming. The man chuckled. I haven't seen a human woman in tens of thousands of years. You're quite good-looking, so you can be my concubine. You shameless old monster. Why don't you use the sea water to reflect your ugly appearance and still dream of marrying me? Tell me, what kind of demon are you? Yun Chujio pouted. The man exclaimed in surprise, I really underestimated you. Do you know that I am a demon? Humph. Only a demon can look like you. Don't dawdle, what kind of demon are you? Why didn't you stay in the cell obediently and run out for? Yun Chujio asked half seriously and half tentatively. I am a succubus. From your words, have you seen other demons? The succubus asked in surprise. I haven't seen many either. It's just some Shuemo, Shaimo, Tanimo, Inyamo, and so on and so forth. I kill every single one I see. People give me the nickname, Professional Demon Slayer. Yun Chujio said smugly as she hugged her shoulders. How would the succubus know that this guy was talking nonsense? He said in shock. What? You killed all of them? No, that's impossible. If we don't have any divine weapons, we can't kill demons. Besides, you're a trash at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm. How can you kill us demons? At this point, the succubus felt that something was wrong. Ah, that's right, this little girl had just broken through. Why didn't her spiritual power level break through? How was this possible? Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. Other than Shuemo, the names of those demons were all nonsense. Could it be that there really were these demons in the immortal origin continent? No, she had to think of a way to find out where these demons were hiding. Tisk. It was not that I was bragging, but the place where you were hiding was not easy to find. The places where those demons were hiding were simply too obvious, okay? Take Shuemo for example. He was hiding in the Divine Axe Heavenly Pit. He was simply stupid. And that Shaimo he was hiding in, Yun Chujio said. Until here, it was as if she was stunned for a moment. That succubus did not know that Yun Chujio was fishing. It said casually, Sha-mo was hiding in the Qiankuan realm, and you found him too? Che! The universe realm was nothing. Not only did I find him, but I killed him easily. And that greedy devil, the place where he was hiding was really Che. Although it was a bit unexpected, I still found him. Yun Chujio said with a twitch of her lips. Greedy devil was hiding in the 5-colored relic tower. You found him too? No, impossible. The succubus was obviously shocked by the huge amount of information. Otherwise, she would not have failed to see through Yun Chujio's little trick. What is this? Ingemo is even more unlucky. I just happened to wander around and accidentally met it. Then I killed it. Tell me, which place did it choose to hide in? It actually hid in that thing. It's really unlucky. Impossible. Impossible. Ingmo's hiding place is the most secretive. It's impossible for you to find it. Moreover, it can hide in a person's shadow. How could you find it? The succubus said in disbelief. Yun Chujio snorted coldly. Secretive? How can that lousy place be called secretive? You're talking nonsense. Ingmo is hiding in Zhutian Valley. There's no... Just as succubus was about to continue, she suddenly realized something was wrong. What a cunning little girl. You're actually trying to trick me. But it doesn't matter, don't even think about leaving here today. I'll eat you after I've taken your yuan-in. Succubus said in anger. She spat out a mouthful of black mist at Yun Chujio. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. After the succubus spat out the black mist, it was certain that Yun Chujio would be knocked out. However, the smug look on its face quickly turned into surprise. Why aren't you afraid of my succubus? Yun Chujio did not have the time to waste with it. She summoned a group of piglets with spiritual power and pounced on the succubus. Like all unlucky people, the succubus ridiculed the piglets with spiritual power and then sawed a Hua who was lazy. The succubus was dumbfounded. How could humans have such a strange spiritual beast? How could it become bigger after it manifested? Dehua? Kill it? Yun Chujio felt that her Dehua was invincible, so her face was full of confidence. However, although the succubus was caught off guard at the beginning, it quickly gained the upper hand. Dehua quickly disappeared after being entangled by the black fog. Humph! Little girl, although your spiritual beast is somewhat special, in front of me, it's just like a child playing house. You'd better obediently follow me to avoid suffering physical pain. Yun Chujio did not expect that the invincible Dehua would actually be unable to withstand a single blow from the succubus. This fellow's heart instantly lost its confidence. Although she had a large kitchen knife in her hand, it was clear that the large kitchen knife had yet to recover its true strength. It might not really be able to kill the so-called succubus. Moreover, since the succubus had broken through the seal of the heavenly fire, it meant that its strength had recovered a lot. The succubus rolled its eyes, and then a glimmer of light flashed in its eyes. Since the succubus was previously blocked by the heavenly fire, it meant that it was afraid of fire. However, the small flame was only a cub. It had to find an opportunity to hit the succubus. It had to let down its guard first. Therefore, Yun Chujio took out a bunch of ice talismans and threw them at the succubus. The succubus sneered, "You want to deal with me with such a low-level talisman? You're dreaming." Yun Chujio was stunned to find that the ice talismans she threw were turned into dust by the black mist of the succubus. This succubus looked much more powerful than Shuemo. It was really difficult to deal with. Yun Chujio threw out a bunch of explosive talismans, but they were still easily dissolved by the succubus. The succubus laughed maniacally. "Darn girl, if you still have any tricks, just use them. An ant like you actually said that you killed the demon? It's simply a fool's dream. I advise you to obediently follow me. In the future, when there is a day in the future, you will enjoy endless glory and wealth. Moreover, I am a famous handsome man in the devil world. Back then, the women in the devil world were all trying to curry favor with me. It is your honor that I have taken a fancy to you. Don't be unappreciative." Yun Chujio laughed so hard that she staggered back and forth. Emma, I have seen shameless people, but I have never seen someone as shameless as you. You call yourself a handsome man with your ugly appearance? However, when is the day you say that there will be such a day in the future? Tell me, maybe you can convince me. The succubus sneered. Stupid girl. You still want to trick me? I was just careless just now. Since you're so stubborn, I can only use some tricks. As the succubus spoke, her eyes were full of light, emitting a bewitching light. The remaining flaming seals could not help but swim towards the succubus. Lai Yen was no exception. She carried Yun Chujio on her back and moved towards the succubus with an infatuated look on her face. Yun Chujio's face also revealed an infatuated look. There were even 2 streams of unknown liquid flowing down from the corner of her mouth. The succubus looked at a certain Jio's infatuated look and instantly felt a little disgusted. What was wrong with her? Hee, handsome man. Come to me, I love you. A certain Jio wiped the saliva from her mouth and said pervertedly. The succubus suppressed the discomfort in her heart and waved at Yun Chujio. Come over. Follow me back. Today is our wedding night. Yun Chujio disliked the red carp below and kicked it away. She said pervertedly, get lost. I'm going to fall into the arms of a handsome man. Yun Chujio's kick was very strong, and it sent the red carp flying in an instant. Lai Yen kicked the other flame seals away one after another and muttered, get lost. Don't hinder me from getting close to the handsome man. A smug look appeared on the succubus face. She was just a little girl in the 6th layer of the Lingxian realm. How could she resist my eye of charm? Just a moment ago, she looked like she wouldn't give in no matter what, but now she couldn't wait any longer. Yun Chujio quickly pounced in front of the succubus, her eyes filled with passionate adoration. Beautiful man, come, let's kiss first. The succubus was so shocked that she almost sank into the sea. Even the devil world didn't have such an unrestrained girl. This was too scary. However, such a passionate beauty should be more interesting. The succubus' eyes revealed a lustful look. She bent down and wanted to kiss Yun Chujio's lips. At this moment, Yun Chujio raised her right hand and the flame of the 10,000-year-old fire marrow gushed out. The succubus was still dreaming. She did not expect Yun Chujio to sneak an attack. She was burned by the flame and immediately let out a miserable cry. I'll take your life while you're sick. Yun Chujio raised her big kitchen knife and hacked fiercely, and the succubus scream became even more shrill. You actually didn't fall for my eye of charm? Not only do you have the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, but you also have the Heaven Punisher axe. Yun Chujio didn't say anything. She kept firing the flame and hacking. The few flaming seals also woke up. Although they knew that there was a limit to their help, they still spared no effort in spitting fireballs at the succubus. Lai Yen and the rest of the flaming seals also woke up. Although their fireballs were not as strong as the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, they were still much stronger than ordinary fire. Therefore, they could still be of some help. The succubus saw that the situation was not looking good and dived into the water. It thought to itself that the power of the 10,000-year-old fire marrow would be greatly reduced in the water so that it could escape. If it knew that Yun Chujio had the Heaven Punisher axe, it would not have provoked her no matter what. It was so regretful that it wanted to vomit blood. As expected, the power of the small flame had weakened a lot in the sea. The succubus seized the opportunity to flee into the distance. The succubus was extremely fast. Yun Chujio could not catch up at all. This fellow knew that if he did not kill it this time, it would be a disaster when it returned. This fellow was also anxious. He exerted force with his right hand and the kitchen knife flew out with a whoosh. This guy regretted after throwing it. Damn it, it was not a throwing knife. How could this work? If he did not let the succubus take the kitchen knife away again, he would lose more than he gained. This guy watched helplessly as the kitchen knife started to fall after flying for a short distance. Obviously, it was impossible for him to catch up with the succubus. This guy sighed. Sigh. I thought I could kill the enemy with a throwing knife. It seems impossible. Before Yun Chujio finished her sentence, A red light flashed on the kitchen knife and it suddenly sped up and slashed at the succubus. The succubus let out a shrill scream and the black fog instantly dissipated into the sea, as if it had never existed. Before Yun Chujio could celebrate, she saw the kitchen knife sink into the sea. Yun Chujio quickly swam over and picked up the large kitchen knife. This guy was stunned to find that there was actually a crack on the large kitchen knife. Immediately, this guy's heart skipped a beat. It was over. Was the large kitchen knife going to die? There was already a gap, and now it was cracked. Didn't they say that this was the Heaven Punisher divine axe? How could it crack? This guy's heart ached. Tears almost fell from his eyes. The large kitchen knife was a good treasure for traveling at home. He didn't expect it to die now. But this guy had no choice. He couldn't take it to the blacksmith's shop to repair it, right? Yun Chujio had no choice but to put the large kitchen knife into her storage ring. She said that she didn't have the time to get a knife case. When she finished settling the people on Chessboard Island, she really had to get a knife case. Several leaders of the Lai Yen seal saw that the monster that troubled them was dead, simply happy don't want. Due to the heroic performance of the red carp, several leaders also spare no effort to praise. As long as a few years, this guy is also expected to be a leader. Yun Chujio rested for a while and decided to dive into the sea to see the skyfire. Now that the succubus was dead, the skyfire only needed to leave a few spots for Lai Yen to hide. It would be best if the rest of the skyfire could be disposed of. Only then would there be more fish and sea beasts in the Sea of Fire. Only then would Lai Yen be able to satisfy the needs of the islanders and Lai Yen. Yun Chujio chose a relatively weak skyfire and carefully dived close to take a look. It was indeed a huge whirlpool with hot air rising continuously. Where did the hot air come from? Yun Chujio circled around the whirlpool a few times but still didn't find anything new. This guy decided to forget about it and not take the risk. Anyway, the blazing dolphins could hunt in the east in the future and wouldn't have any conflicts with the islanders. After discussing with Island Master Kong and the others, they should be able to carve out an island for the people of Chessboard Island. When Yun Chujio thought of this and was about to leave, she found that the sand at the bottom of the sea started to churn, the whirlpool became smaller and smaller, and the temperature of the sea became lower and lower. Not long after, the whirlpool actually disappeared. Almost at the same time, all the heavenly flames disappeared. Yun Chujio, did she not do anything right? This was great. The blazing dolphins probably hated Lai Yen to death. Once the heavenly flames disappeared, they had no defensive barrier. The islanders had to kill them all. What a sin! Just as Yun Chujio was feeling frustrated, the red carp swam to her side and said loudly, "Master, did you destroy the heavenly flames?" "It really wasn't me. Listen to me. I did save you before, but I really didn't destroy the heavenly flames." Yun Chujio was afraid that the flaming seal would hold a grudge against her, so she kept explaining. "Master, you don't have to say any more. I know you're very low-key. Who else can extinguish the heavenly fire other than you? Don't be humble." "It really wasn't me. Master, are you afraid that we'll lose our defensive barrier and hold a grudge against you? Don't worry. There's an underwater volcano at the end of the Sea of Flames. We'll move our home there. When that happens, we won't be afraid of being attacked by others and we won't be afraid of having nothing to eat." "That's great." Lai Yen said, "Oh right, Master, did you really say that you didn't do it?" Then what? I was joking with you. Of course, I was the one who extinguished the heavenly fire. Other than me, no one else has the ability to do it," a certain Jiao said shamelessly. This fellow guessed that the heavenly fire should be a spell formation to suppress the succubus. Since the succubus was dead, the spell formation was ineffective. Therefore, it was only natural that the credit should go to her. Lai Yan's group of raging flame seals was even more grateful to Yun Chujio than the sea. They felt that they should express their gratitude. After thinking about it, they decided to give the red carp to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio declined tactfully. She already had enough spiritual pets now. She didn't want to take them anymore. It was very expensive to raise one, okay? After the red carp was rejected, it was quite depressed. It suddenly felt that the whole leopard was not good. It was being despised. It was so sad. Red carp, I am doing this for your own good. If you follow me, how will you marry a wife? Don't worry. I will come back to see you when I have the chance. I hope that you can follow a bunch of baby seals when the time comes, Yun Chujio said with a smile. The red carp was instantly cured. Yes, it was more important to get a wife. The direct result of this incident was that the red carp began to pursue the mother of the Lai Yen seal crazily, and then it kept on giving birth. After dealing with the Lai Yen seal, Yun Chujio returned to the big ship. At this time, Island Master Kong and the others on the big ship had already treated Yun Chujio like a god. Oh my god, did she really extinguish the heavenly fire? How was this possible? Yun Chujio was too lazy to explain. Anyway, even if she denied it, these people would not believe it. As for the succubus, there was no need to tell them about it. If she did, it would only cause trouble. Lai Yen and the rest of the group of blazing sea seals had already migrated to the depths of the blazing sea, so a large area of the sea had been opened up. Yun Chujio picked an island suitable for humans to live on and let the people of Chessboard Island live on it. Island Master Kong and the others naturally couldn't raise any objections. The matter of the people of Chessboard Island had been completely resolved. The people of Chessboard Island felt that their heavenly daughter was simply omnipotent. When Yun Chujio left, all of them wept bitterly and were extremely reluctant to part with her. Yun Chujio also shed a few drops of crocodile tears before she left the Sea of Raging Flames. Lai Yen had also left the Sea of Raging Flames. After this fellow boarded the spaceship, he changed his usual temperament and closed his eyes to rest whenever he had nothing to do. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were very puzzled and wondered what happened to junior sister Jiao. Was she injured? Or was it a blow? The two of them decided to divert Yun Chujio's attention, so they said, "Junior sister Jiao, let's play cards." And Linchuan took out a card and said, "It's boring, you guys play." A certain Jiao continued to sit on the recliner with her eyes closed. "Junior sister little Jiao, let's have hot pot." Shangguan Hao suggested. "I'm not hungry. If you guys are hungry, you guys can eat." A certain Jiao still didn't open her eyes. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao looked at each other. Oh no, the problem was serious. Junior sister little Jiao wasn't even interested in cards and hot pot. This was too abnormal. Something must have happened. Little ninth junior sister, what's wrong with you? Say something. You are too scary. And Linchuan was burning with anxiety. Such a quiet little ninth junior sister was not even as good as that troublemaker junior sister. At least he felt at ease looking at her. Yun Chujio closed her eyes and said faintly, "I'm fine. I'm meditating on the principles of life." And Linchuan's eyes widened. He tried to persuade her earnestly, "Junior sister Jiao, you're not trying to become a monk after seeing through the secular world, are you? Don't do it. Although you usually don't look like a lady, although you're not gentle at all, and although most people wouldn't choose a lady like you as their wife, there are still some blind people who would choose you. You'll marry out." A certain Jiao opened her eyes immediately. "You're the one who can't marry out. Your whole family can't marry out. Get lost. Get as far away as possible." And Linchuan didn't get angry after being scolded. Instead, he clapped his hands and said, "Junior sister Jiao, you're finally back to normal. Emma, you looked so scary before." Yun Chujio glared at him. "I'm already normal, okay? I'm having an epiphany." And Linchuan, Shangguan Hao, "Epiphany? What kind of joke was this?" An epiphany required time. Some people would never have the opportunity to have an epiphany in their entire lives. This guy was just going to lie here and have an epiphany? And Linchuan pursed his lips and said, "Junior sister Jiao, I think you're confusing an epiphany with a wild imagination. You're just wasting your time." Yun Chujio jumped up from the recliner and chased after Linchuan. "You're either cursing me for not marrying off or saying that I'm having wild imagination. I'll show you little Jiao's shadowless feet today." And Linchuan rushed out of the cabin while screaming. Yun Chujio chased after him while shouting and shouting. Shangguan Hao shook his head with a smile. It was only normal for little Jiao to be so lively. A certain Jiao's plan of epiphany had completely failed after being interrupted by an Linchuan. This fellow also knew that epiphany was something that could only be encountered by chance and not sought after. He had only tried it before. Once Yun Chujiao returned to normal, the flying spirit tool became lively again. While the three of them were cultivating, they played cards and chatted. It felt like time flew by quickly. In the blink of an eye, nearly half a month had passed. The flying spirit tool flew to a place called Sky High Cliff. The flying spirit tool fell to the ground uncontrollably. Yun Chujiao and the other two were shocked. They quickly opened the cabin door and jumped down a few feet from the ground. Only then did they not fall to their deaths. Yun Chujia's mind raced. She was afraid that this was a no-fly zone. That was why it was like this. Just as she thought of this, many people from the Divine Devil Hall rushed out from all directions. At a glance, there were hundreds of people. Yun Chujia's heart sank. It seemed that the Divine Devil Hall had invested a lot this time. They had to kill her. Otherwise, they would not have mobilized hundreds of people to kill her. Although Yun Chujia's heart was in a mess, she still looked calm and collected. She glanced at the people from the Divine Devil Hall and said, "Leader, come out and talk." A golden-masked man walked out with a sneer. "Yun Chujiao, you've ruined the Divine Devil Hall's major events time and time again. Today is the day you die." "Io, your voice sounds familiar. Could it be that you're the coward who ran away from the Yuan killing sect last time?" A defeated general doesn't have the courage to speak. If I were you, I would have found a piece of tofu and killed myself. Yet you still have the nerve to come out and show off. Shameless. Yun Chujiao pouted and said. The gold-masked man immediately became angry out of embarrassment. "Stupid girl. Don't be proud. Not only is flying forbidden here, but talismans are also useless. I want to see if you still have any ability." As the gold-masked man spoke, he released a spiritual tiger towards Yun Chujiao. Furthermore, he brought along 2 spiritual leopards and pounced towards Yun Chujiao. Yun Chujiao was calculating in her heart as she released her spiritual piglet to fight. Although De Hua was powerful, there were hundreds of people on the opposite side. It was impossible for him to defeat them. No matter how abnormal the little flame and the big kitchen knife were, she could not kill a few of them alone. Even if she was tired, it would exhaust her to death. At most, the great void mystic realm would send her into it. What about an Linchuan and Shangguan Hao? Use the Guai Chao to summon the demon beasts? This was a way to kill 1,000 enemies at the cost of 800. Moreover, she might not be able to hold on until the demon beasts arrived. Yun Chujiao thought for a long time, and there was only one way, and that was to crush the jade token that Di Baiming gave her. In fact, Yun Chujiao did not want to use this jade token easily. Although Di Baiming said it was easy, she was not stupid. She knew that splitting out such a wisp of spiritual sense would harm Di Baiming, so unless it was a last resort, she did not want to use it. Yun Chujiao gritted her teeth and held on for a while longer. If it really did not work, she would crush the jade token again. At this moment, De Hua had already appeared out of nowhere. The people of the Divine Devil Hall cried out in surprise. They had never seen such a big spiritual beast, and it was actually a pig? The spiritual tiger and the 2 spiritual leopards of the golden-masked man were instantly terrified. Although they didn't disappear, they were still hesitant and looked extremely afraid. Yun Chujiao regained some confidence in her heart. Perhaps De Hua could hold on for a while, but she would wait and see. "De Hua! Kill him!" Yun Chujiao shouted as she used her spiritual needles to attack the golden-masked man. De Hua had suffered a serious blow from the succubus. Now that he finally had a chance to redeem himself, he naturally spared no effort. He stomped on the 3 spiritual beasts that were huddled together and opened his mouth to bite the golden-masked man. The golden-masked man hurriedly dodged and then roared at his subordinates, "Are you all dead? Why aren't you doing anything?" Only then did the people from the Divine Devil Hall come back to their senses. One after another, they released their spiritual beasts and pounced towards De Hua, Yun Chujiao, and the other 2. Although De Hua had bitten and thrashed away many spiritual beasts, it also dissipated very quickly on its own. Yun Chujio quickly released another batch of spiritual piglets. De Hua II charged out again. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. She couldn't hold on any longer. It seemed that she could only crush the jade token. Yun Chujio crushed the jade token hanging around her neck with force, but nothing happened. This fellow was so angry that he almost lashed out. "Gigolo, you tricked me." While this fellow was lashing out angrily, he finally heard the voice of a certain god. "Do you all want to die?" The voice was filled with immense pressure, and the people from the Divine Devil Hall could not help but stop their attacks. Some of the weaker ones even knelt on the ground. At this moment, Di Baiming's figure appeared in front of everyone. However, it was not a physical body but a phantom. "Either get lost or die. It's your choice," a certain Gio said coldly. A certain Gio felt that her pretty boy was simply too cool and domineering. Too cool. This guy secretly decided to memorize this sentence and save it for later to show off. The voice of the Jean Mian person trembled slightly as he asked, "You? Who are you?" "This venerable one has already given you the chance to choose. Since you didn't get lost, then you want to die." And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were dumbfounded. They thought they were dead for sure today. They didn't expect little ninth junior sister to have such a great weapon. Oh my god! Who is this person? It looks like it's just a strand of spiritual sense, but a strand of spiritual sense can be so powerful? If this was the real me, wouldn't it be awesome? From the way he spoke, why did it feel like little ninth junior sister was in love with him? And Lin Chuan suddenly remembered what he had said. Only the blind would marry her. He immediately felt a cold breeze at the back of his neck as he prayed in his heart. Junior sister little nine must never mention this when she sees this fiend in the future. Otherwise, he would not be able to save his little life. The group ran all the way until they finally left the vast horizon before Di Baiming's figure disappeared. At the same time, Yun Chujia's storage ring began to tremble. "Quickly leave that place and take a detour back to the Primordial Chaos sect. Since the God Fiend Temple wants to kill you, they probably have other plans," a certain someone said sternly. He had wanted to protect Yun Chujio, but the distance was too far. By the time he arrived, it would be too late. After Yun Chujio obediently agreed, she took out the map to check. The route they chose was the closest. If they were to take a detour, there were several options. Yun Chujio's gaze finally landed on one spot. Pointing there, she said, "Well, go around here and then walk like this. Like this." And Lin Chuan's eyes widened. "Junior sister Xiao Jiao, are you sure? That's the Kanglan Snow Mountain. It said that the environment there is very harsh, and it's difficult to move. Are we really going to pass through the Kanglan Snow Mountain?" Yun Chujio nodded her head firmly. "It's precisely because of the harsh conditions of the Kanglan Snow Mountain that we have to go through here. The people of the Divine Devil Hall must be thinking the same as you. They think that we won't go through the Kanglan Snow Mountain, so it's the safest place. As for the harsh conditions, you don't have to worry. I have my own ways." Although Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao still had reservations, they still followed Yun Chujio to take a detour to the Kanglan Snow Mountain. When the three of them reached the foot of the Kanglan Snow Mountain, they already felt a bone-chilling chill. And Lin Chuan was shivering from the cold. "Junior sister Xiaojiao, why don't you think about it again? This place is a no-fly zone. We can only climb over on foot. Even if there are no demonic beasts, the cold will freeze us to death." Yun Chujio threw two big cloaks to the two of them. She herself was not cold because the small flame kept heating up. After the two of them put on the cloaks, they suddenly felt warm all over. And Lin Chuan touched the cloaks with his hands and said, "Junior sister Xiaojiao, what kind of demon beast's fur is this? The effect of keeping warm is too awesome." Yun Chujio curled the corners of her mouth and did not say anything. Suddenly, Shangguan Hao sniffed and stumbled, almost falling to the ground. This can't be 9. Shangguan Hao was so excited that he could not even speak clearly. He could not believe that the cloak that Yun Chujio casually threw at them was actually the fur of the legendary nine-tailed fox. Although he had never seen the fur of the nine-tailed fox, There were records in the ancient books. It was said that the fur of the nine-tailed fox was as white as snow, and it had a distinct characteristic, which was the faint scent of sandalwood. It was ironic that the nine-tailed fox was best at charm, but its body carried the scent of sandalwood in front of Buddha, so Shangguan Hao remembered this very clearly. Senior brother Shangguan, don't care what kind of fur it is. Let's hurry so that the divine devil hall doesn't react. By the way, these 2 cloaks are only for you. Don't break them. Otherwise, the guy you saw before won't forgive you, Yun Chujio said coldly. When Linchuan and Shangguan Hao heard Yun Chujio's words, they immediately shifted their attention from the cloak to a certain person. And Linchuan asked with a cheeky smile, Junior sister little Jio, who is that person? His spiritual power is too powerful, isn't it? Just a wisp of spiritual sense is already so powerful. If he is a real person, wouldn't he be invincible in the world? Yun Chujio glanced at him. He is the one you said has no eyes. If there is a chance, I will pass on your words to him. And Linchuan was terrified. Junior sister little Jio, don't. Senior brother has always been honest with you. You can't harm senior brother. Senior brother hasn't married yet. I don't want to see the king of hell so early. The 3 of them chatted and laughed as they headed deeper into the snow mountain. As their bodies weren't cold, they felt that the snow mountain wasn't as scary as they had imagined. However, as they went deeper into the heart of the snow mountain, the snow on the ground became thicker and thicker. It became more and more strenuous for the 3 of them to walk, and they could not help but gasp for air. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. It was too tiring to walk like this. It was best to get a few mounts. Why were there no demonic beasts that came to their doorstep? Just as this fellow was thinking, the roar of a beast came from afar. This fellow was happy. The mounts had arrived. The 3 miserable mountain-shaking snow bears were tricked into becoming the mounts of the 3 of them in a muddle-headed manner. As a result, the 3 of them had a much more comfortable life. The 3 of them rode on the back of the bear. Firstly, they did not have to work hard to leave on their own. Secondly, when they encountered a snowstorm, they could even hide in the long fur of the mountain-shaking snow bear. Lastly, they could even shelter themselves from the wind and keep warm when they slept at night. It was simply wonderful. The 3 of them were extremely happy. The people from the Divine Devil Hall who had followed them from behind were simply out of luck. They had originally blocked off a few passageways for Yun Chujio to return to the Primordial Chaos sect. However, they did not expect that neither the left nor the right had come. Finally, through some clues, they determined that the 3 of them had chosen to cross the Kanglan Snow Mountain. The people from the Divine Devil Hall all thought that Yun Chujio and the other 2 were crazy. The environment of the Kanglan Snow Mountain was extremely harsh. Not only was the weather extremely cold, but demonic beasts were also rampant. Were they crazy? The people from the Divine Devil Hall naturally did not want to follow them into the Kanglan Snow Mountain. However, the higher-ups had given their lives. This time, they wanted to kill Yun Chujio no matter what, so they could only bitterly follow them into the Kanglan Snow Mountain. They did not have the overcoats of the 9-tailed fox to keep them warm, nor did they have the mountain-shaking snow bear to carry them. Each step they took left a deep footprint as they chased after them bitterly. At this time, a certain Geo had already arrived at the halfway point of the Kanglan Snow Mountain. She stood on the back of the mountain-shaking snow bear and looked down. She saw several slowly moving black spots. This fellow blinked his eyes. It seemed that the people of the Divine Devil Hall had come to chase after them. Rather than letting them chase after them, it was better to kill them. Therefore, this fellow began to recruit soldiers and horses. Of course, the soldiers were all demon beasts from the Snow Mountain. Regardless of their size or the level of their spiritual power, they were all collected. Then, they set up an ambush circle and waited for the arrival of the people of the Divine Devil Temple. The people of the Divine Devil Temple did not know that Hei Shinjio had already set up a trap. It was no wonder. They had never heard of any prey setting up a trap to deal with the hunters. Therefore, the people of the Divine Devil Hall were not prepared at all. They were killed completely by the demon beasts that had set up an ambush. Yun Chujio watched coldly from the side. Want to kill her? Dream on. This time, this guy did not waste the opportunity to make a small fortune. He kept their storage rings and continued to move forward. Junior sister Xiaojiu, since the people of the Divine Devil Hall have chased to the Snow Mountain, I'm afraid they have already set up an ambush near the Snow Mountain. What should we do next? Sheng Guanhao said. Yun Chujiu frowned. The Divine Devil Hall had really put in a lot of effort this time. It seemed like they would not stop until she was dead. It was likely that there would be ambushes along the way, not just around the snowy mountains. Yun Chujiu rolled her eyes. Let's go. We'll go back the same way we came. This is called there is reality in the illusion, and there is emptiness in the reality. The illusion is real, and the reality is real. Those idiots from the Divine Devil Hall will not be able to figure it out. And Lin Xuan and Shang Guanhao were stunned at first, then they gave her a thumbs up. Junior sister little Jiu, you're really too smart. The people from the Divine Devil Hall would never have thought that we would go back the same way. Their people must have been waiting for us at the foot of the Snow Mountain. Who would have thought that we would go back the same way? Ha! And Lin Xuan was now completely in awe of Yun Chujiu. The three of them directed the mountain-shaking snow bear to return by the same route. When they reached the foot of the snow mountain, Yun Chujiu gave the three mountain-shaking snow bears some medicinal pills before swaggering out of the snow mountain. Yun Chujiu rolled her eyes and found a flying spirit tool from the storage rings of the people from the Divine Devil Hall. After refining it, the three of them followed the original route back to the Primordial Chaos sect. The people from the Divine Devil Hall had been lying in ambush on the other side of the snow mountain. After waiting for a few days, they still did not see Yun Chujiu and the other two. They wondered if the three of them had already lost their lives on the snow mountain. Since there was no way to use the talisman on the snow mountain, they did not know that the group of people they were chasing had already died. They could only continue to stand guard near the snow mountain. At this time, Yun Chujiu and the other two had already arrived at Ninghai City near the Primordial Chaos sect while humming a tune. The reason why Yun Chujiu did not return to the Primordial Chaos sect was that this fellow was too greedy. Aunt Li's food was extremely delicious. The food that this fellow had brought over had long been eaten up. Therefore, she planned to let Aunt Li cook more delicious food so that she could eat it in the future. Moreover, she planned to match the large kitchen knife with a knife sheath so that she could carry the large kitchen knife with her at all times. This way, she would not be unable to take out the large kitchen knife due to the restriction of her spiritual power. Ninghai City was the territory of the Hunyuan sect, so the people of the Divine Devil Hall did not dare to show their faces here. Yun Chujiu and the other two finally let out a sigh of relief. The three of them left the equipment store, and Yun Chujiu went to the grocery store. This fellow had bought all the talisman papers. Junior sister little Jiu, didn't you want to buy a knife case? Why did you buy so many talisman papers? And Lin Xuan asked curiously. I've decided to go back and sew a knife case myself. As for these talisman papers, I have my own uses, Yun Chujiu said indifferently. And Lin Xuan saw that she didn't want to say more, so he didn't continue asking. The three of them left the grocery store. And Lin Xuan pointed to a restaurant in the distance and said, Junior sister Xiaojiu, I see many people lining up outside that restaurant. Let's go there and have a taste? Yun Chujiu nodded, but when she got closer and took a look, this guy whispered, well, let's go to another restaurant. And Lin Xuan was puzzled. Junior sister Xiaojiu, this self-service restaurant is very fresh when I heard its name, and there are so many people waiting in line. It must be very delicious. Let's go in and have a taste. Yun Chujiu looked around, then lowered her voice and said, this is a business that I did in partnership with someone. Let's go to another restaurant. Junior sister Xiaojiu, you're wrong. Are you afraid that we want pay? And Lin Xuan pretended to be unhappy. I don't want to trick you. There's something fishy going on here. Good things take a long time to get. Besides, the dishes made with expensive ingredients taste ordinary, but the ones made with cheap ingredients taste good. If we have the money, we might as well go to other restaurants. And Lin Xuan, Sheng Guanhao, profiteer. A blatant profiteer. The three of them had no choice but to go to another restaurant for a meal. During the meal, they heard a piece of surprising news. A month ago, the Yen clan, which had been dormant, suddenly started to attack. Alliance Master Yen of the Sky-Bearing Alliance had gathered many cultivators from the Immortal Essence continent and had already headed to the border between the Human clan and the Yen clan. The situation between the two sides was very intense. The Yen clan? Yun Chujio had once read about the Yen clan in some ancient books. The Yen clan was a race between the human race and the demon race. The Yen clan was born with a cunning nature. Their strength was not as strong as the demon race, therefore, they had always been a fence-sitter. When the human race had exterminated the demon race, the Yen clan had voluntarily curled up in the far west of the immortal Yuan continent. Moreover, they had declared that they would never invade the human race. At that time, the humans and the demons had been fighting for many years. Although they had won, it was a bitter victory. Therefore, they didn't have the strength to exterminate the nightmare race, so they had agreed to the nightmare race. All along, the nightmare race seemed to have disappeared without a trace. They had always been on good terms with the humans. Unexpectedly, they had suddenly attacked. Although the Far West had always been guarded by the Sky-Bearing Union, it had been peaceful for tens of thousands of years. It was just a decoration. Therefore, the Yen clan advanced rapidly. In less than half a month, they had killed many humans and demon beasts and occupied a large piece of land. Yun Chujio's mood immediately became heavy. She felt that everything was internally connected. Shui Mo from the Divine Axe Heavenly Pit, the monsters from the Tianluo Arcane Realm, the human-faced octopus from the bottom of the sea, the succubus that she had killed not long ago, and the Yen clan that suddenly attacked. All of these seemed to be controlled by someone. It must be a huge conspiracy. Yun Chujio suddenly felt helpless. She was still too weak. Even if he was as strong as the pretty boy, he still could not get rid of his enemy. Perhaps that enemy was also part of this huge conspiracy. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were no longer in the mood to eat or drink. The rise and fall of the world was the responsibility of the common people. If they couldn't stop the Yen clan's attack, the entire Immortal Essence continent would fall into a desperate situation. Moreover, there was a divine devil hall watching them from the shadows. The Immortal Essence continent, which was supposed to be peaceful, was suddenly shrouded in a layer of shadow. The three of them finished the meal and went to the courtyard that Yun Chujio had bought before. Uncle Li, Aunt Li, and the guards of the Yi family were all very excited when they saw Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio asked about the situation briefly and then told Aunt Li to buy more ingredients and cook some dishes. She wanted to take them away. Aunt Li and Uncle Li immediately started to get busy. Yun Chujio took some time to look at the accounts that Lu Kai had reported to her. Then, she said to Linchuan and Shangguan Hao, who were frowning, the general trend of the world will be divided after a long time. After a long time, it will be peaceful and prosperous. You don't have to worry too much. The two of them were not used to Yun Chujio's serious tone. And Linchuan laughed dryly. Junior sister Jio, you're right. Actually, it's no use worrying about us. The sect master and the others are still up there. Although the Yen clan is difficult to deal with, they are far inferior to the demons. We can definitely chase them back to their nest. The three of them chatted and laughed for a while, and their mood lightened up a little. Yun Chujio took out a pen and paper and began to design the knife cover for the large kitchen knife. This fellow was murmuring in her heart as she drew. Sun Wukong's golden cudgel was still better. It would be fine if it was hidden in the eyes of the ear. She still had to make a knife cover for her large kitchen knife. It was really troublesome. This fellow ridiculed and drew at the same time. In the end, he designed a small knife cover that could be hung at the waist. When Aunt Li finished cooking, Yun Chujio's big knife case was also freshly made. Rather than calling it a knife case, it was more like a fanny pack. Although it was a little cumbersome, it was still better than being stuck in a hopeless situation. The guy put the big knife into his storage ring and hung it at his waist when he went out. In the evening, Yun Chujio and the other two arrived at the Hunyuan sect. Yun Chujio had already made a good argument with Linchuan and the other two. The three of them had gone through a life and death test, so they still had basic trust in each other. Therefore, Yun Chujio was more at ease with them. After the three of them met with Master Bailey, Yun Chujio told them everything she could. Master Bailey was stunned when he heard that. He couldn't digest it for a moment, so he let the three of them go back to rest. The next day, Master Bailey gathered 6 peak masters and elders with experience. He called the three of them over and questioned them. When everyone heard about the matter of the Divine Devil Hall, their mood became even heavier. Especially when they heard about the succubus, they felt as if a storm was coming. Although Yun Chujio had found out the hiding places of a few of the devils, whether it was the Qingkuan Secret Realm, the 5-colored relic pagoda, or the Candle Sky Valley, they were all legends and had never appeared in the world. Therefore, they couldn't get rid of the 3 demons for the time being. After much discussion, they could only strengthen their defenses and inform the major forces. After all, the most important thing now was to deal with the Yen clan's attack. Since the Yen clan was only wreaking havoc in the far west, the atmosphere in the Hunyuan sect was no different from usual. After Yun Chujio returned, the first thing she did was to be found by Mountain Master Zhua of Tianji Peak. Her purpose was naturally to give the Snow Jade Silkworm a month to live. Since Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu were both cultivating in seclusion, Yun Chujio went to Tianji Peak's mulberry field by herself. She was very familiar with giving Snow Jade Silkworm a month. Therefore, she spent most of the day free. On this day, after Yun Chujio finished her work in the mulberry field, she wandered around Tianji Peak to pass the time. While she was walking, she was blocked by someone. Yun Chujio took a look and saw that it was Yi Bingying. She had almost forgotten about Yi Bingying and Fan Mingchuan. She didn't expect that Yi Bingying would show up again. Yun Chujio, although cousin Mingchuan was deceived by you in the past and expressed some good feelings toward you, it was all a misunderstanding. Therefore, I hope that you stay away from cousin Mingchuan in the future and don't wander around Tianji Peak all the time, Yi Bingying said with a gloomy face. Yun Chujio glanced at her. Are you sick? I'm here to take care of the Snow Jade Silkworm in the mulberry garden, not to look after your precious cousin. If you have any objections, go to Mountain Master Zhua. If he agrees, I promise not to take even half a step into Tianji Peak. You say it nicely. This place is very far from the mulberry garden. Why did you come here? Didn't you know that this place is not far from my cousin Mingchuan's courtyard, so you came here on purpose? Let me tell you, you're just a handyman. You can't compare to me and Mingchuan's cousin at all. You better be careful. Yi Bingying's expression became even uglier when she saw Yun Chujio using Mountain Master Zhua to suppress her. That's right, I'm just a handyman, but I dare to beat you up. If you don't step aside, I'll take action. Yun Chujio said faintly. This guy used to be very happy to tear a piece of trash to play with, but now he had no interest. Fuck. The immortal essence continent was about to fall into a crisis, and this little bitch was still thinking about her cousin. She really had nothing better to do. Yi Bingying was about to fly into a rage, but a tearful expression suddenly appeared on her face. Cousin Mingchuan, you came at the right time. Little Jio, she bullied me. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. Damn, this white lotus was so lifelike. If it wasn't for her being the main character, she would have felt that bullying such a white lotus was unforgivable. Yun Chujio, don't go too far. I've already been forced to make a statement, and I don't like you anymore. Why are you making things difficult for cousin Bingying? Fan Mingchuan said to Yun Chujio with a gloomy face. Fan Mingchuan hated Yun Chujio to death in his heart. He had been successful since he was young, but he had suffered a loss at Yun Chujio's hands, especially when he was forced to make such a shameful statement. However, he was worried about the strength of the previous person, so he did not dare to cause trouble for Yun Chujio. He had already planned in his heart that there would be plenty of time in the future. When he found an opportunity, he would deal with this bitch and avenge his past shame. As for the matter between him and Yi Bingying, it was nothing more than to prove to everyone that he, Fan Mingchuan, was very popular. The matter with Yun Chujio previously was all a misunderstanding. Of course, this had a lot to do with Yi Bingying taking the initiative to ask about his well-being and the fact that they had a common enemy. Fan Mingchuan was just looking for some psychological comfort. Yun Chujio turned around and looked at Fan Mingchuan, whose face was gloomy, the corners of her lips curled up. Fan Mingchuan, Yi Binging, for the last time, I have no interest in Fan Mingchuan at all. Such scum is not even worthy to carry my shoes. If you meet me in the future, you'd better take a detour. Otherwise, I'll beat you up every time I see you. If you don't believe me, let's give it a try. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The argument between the three of them had already attracted a lot of people to come and watch. When they heard Yun Chujio's arrogant words, they immediately started discussing. This Yun Chujio is really getting more and more arrogant. A handyman actually dares to threaten an inner sect disciple. It's not like you don't know. She has already entered the Cave of Reflection 3 times. The last time she was locked in the Cave of Tranquility, she didn't expect to encounter an earth dragon that turned the situation around. What do you think she's afraid of? That's right. What's the point of her threatening Fan Mingchuan? What did she do to that Mu Wu the last time? The expressions on Fan Mingchuan and Yi Bingying's faces could be said to be very interesting. Sometimes they were red, sometimes they were white. Yi Bingying shouted sharply, Yun Chujio, you're just a handyman. How dare you threaten us? You're disobeying your superiors. Yun Chujio snorted coldly. Get lost or die. It's your choice. This guy finally said the pretentious lines that he had kept for a long time and felt that he was awesome. Yun Chujio, if you dare to touch a hair on our heads, Yi Bingying's words were replaced by a scream because a certain Jio kicked her away. After He Xinjiao kicked Yi Bingying away, she took out a big kitchen knife from her waist bag and gestured at Fan Mingchuan. Do you want to get lost or let me cut you twice? Fan Mingchuan's face was livid. He pointed at Yun Chujio and shouted, You, aren't you afraid of the rules of the sect? Yun Chujio swung the large kitchen knife at him. Fan Mingchuan was so scared that he almost wet his pants. Even in his dreams, he never thought that Yun Chujio would actually dare to cut him. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and dodged the knife. However, his body was drenched in cold sweat. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. I'll ask you again. Are you guys going to get lost? Yi Bingying climbed up and grabbed Fan Mingchuan's arm. Mingchuan, let's go. She's a lunatic. Fan Mingchuan was already afraid. Now that he had a way out, he gritted his teeth and said, Yun Chujio, just you wait. We'll go to the law enforcement office and sue you. Okay, but wait. By the way, I'll say it again. If you see me in the future, take a detour. Otherwise, I won't be so polite next time. Yun Chujio said with a big kitchen knife in her hand. Fan Mingchuan and Yi Bingying glared at her angrily, then they turned around and went to the law enforcement office to sue her. The surrounding disciples were afraid that Yun Chujio would vent her anger on them, so they quickly scattered. In the blink of an eye, a certain Jio was the only one left. A certain Jio curled her lips. After putting away the kitchen knife, she continued to wander around Tianji Peak. When Fan Mingchuan and Yi Bingying arrived at the law enforcement office, they told Manager Zhong what had happened. Manager Zhong felt a headache coming on. He knew that once Yun Chujio came back, the law enforcement office wouldn't stop. They had only been back for less than 3 days, and something had already happened. Although he had a headache, he still had to do something. Otherwise, wouldn't the disciples of the Chaos Origins sect follow her example? Thus, a certain Jio who was wandering around was brought to the law enforcement department by a few law enforcement disciples. As a certain Jio was an old acquaintance of the law enforcement department, this fellow was chatting and laughing with those law enforcement disciples. It did not seem like he had been brought here, but more like he was a guest. Manager Zhong, long time no see. This is the dried fish I brought for you. It tastes pretty good. A certain Jio smiled as she handed Manager Zhong 5 dried fish. The kitten said unhappily in the spirit beast bag, Meow. Master, you were clearly the one who bought the dried fish for me. Manager Zhong did not know that these were the kitten's reserve rations. He held the 5 dried fish in his hands and his expression was very subtle. Previously, he had listened to that person's instructions and deliberately made things difficult for Yun Chujio. After that, he had repeatedly crossed swords with Yun Chujio. In short, he had not been able to take advantage of her. He thought that Yun Chujio already hated him to death. He did not expect that now, she would actually bring him 5 dried fish. Although these 5 dried fish were not worth much, it was more than just courtesy. Did this mean that this troublemaker did not hate him? Manager Zhong had long regretted it. Although that person's status was not low, Yun Chujio was clearly valued by the sect master now. If he went against her, he was simply asking for trouble. Everyone looked at Manager Zhong with a dumbfounded expression as he looked at the 5 dried fish lovingly. They thought to themselves, is this Manager Zhong sick? It's just 5 dried fish, how could he be so touched? Aren't his eyelids too shallow? Fan Mingchuan and Yi Bingying felt a chill in their hearts. Could Manager Zhong help them with this attitude? Manager Zhong put the dried fish into his storage ring, then he coughed twice. Yun Chujio, this is different. Although we have a good relationship in private, why did you attack Fan Mingchuan and Yi Bingying? But what did they do that crossed your bottom line? Yun Chujio's mouth twitched. A good relationship in private? Yes, that's right. A relationship of 5 dried fish. Fan Mingchuan and Yi Bingying were so angry that they were twitching. What did he mean by they did something that crossed her bottom line? Manager Zhong's question was obviously biased towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio curled her lips. As the saying goes, dogs don't get in the way. They got in my way, so I didn't like them, so I beat them up. That's all. Manager Zhong was on the verge of breaking down. In order to repay the 5 dried fish, he had specially found a reason for her. He didn't expect that this guy would find a reason that was not pleasing to the eye. What are you playing at? Manager Zhong coughed. Fan Mingchuan, Yi Bingying, why are you blocking Yun Chujio's way? Manager Zhong, Yun Chujio and I are sisters. I only asked a few questions out of concern. In the end, she said hurtful words and even kicked me. Yun Chujio suddenly jumped up and kicked Yi Bingying. I kicked you, you little bitch. How dare you complain? I'll beat you to death. This guy turned around and kicked Fan Mingchuan, who had a blank look on his face. You toad, you want to eat swan meat. How dare you dream of me, Fairy Xiaojiu? I'll kick you to death. Manager Zhong only wanted to do one thing now, and that was to throw the 5 dried fish on Yun Chujio's face. If he had known this guy was so arrogant, he wouldn't have dared to accept the 5 dried fish. This fellow might even bite him back and say that he had accepted a bribe. The more Manager Zhong thought about it, the more afraid he became. He said anxiously, Yun Chujio, you beat up your fellow disciples. You will be punished. You will be punished to go to number 1 to meditate and meditate for 3 days. Everyone, number 1 to meditate for 3 days? 3 days? Isn't your punishment too light? Are you playing? Yun Chujio smiled brightly. Your punishment is too light. You will punish me to go to number 16 to meditate for 3 days. The deadline is 2 months. Everyone, could this Yun Chujio be out of her mind? How could she give herself a heavier punishment? And reflect on the cave on the 16th? Did she want to die? Manager Zhong was stunned for a moment, then said, Yun Chujio, are you so angry that you're not thinking clearly? Forget it, since you're sick, let's forget about this matter. Everyone, was it really good to cover up so brazenly? Yun Chujio was also very confused. Okay? Why was it so difficult to enter the reflection cave and receive punishment now? Her actual spiritual power was already at the 7th level of the spiritual void tier. This guy thought that she could already deal with the wind blades in the number 16 reflection cave, so he planned to go in and absorb some lightning. Even if there were no lightning inside, it was still good to use the heaven and earth furnace to refine pills. After this trip, she had consumed a lot of medicinal pills. If she didn't refine some more, the Guai Chao would turn evil again. This guy blinked his eyes and said to Manager Zhong, Manager Zhong, I am determined to go into the number 16 reflection cave today. If you don't agree, I will blow up the law enforcement office. Manager Zhong, you are playing tricks. What kind of madness is this? Manager Zhong felt his head hurt even more. He clutched his stomach and said, "Well, my stomach is not feeling well. Please wait a moment." Manager Zhong did not wait for the others to react after he finished speaking and rushed into the house. Manager Zhong looked for Elder Chu anxiously and asked, "Elder Chu, what should we do now?" "Oh my God, I only took 5 dried fish from Yun Chujio. If I knew that she was here to mess up our law enforcement, I would never take these 5 dried fish." Elder Chu was dumbfounded. What a mess. Manager Zhong finally calmed down a little after being glared at by Elder Chu. He told him what had happened and then said, "Elder Chu, this Yun Chujio insisted on going to the number 16 reflection cave. What do you think she's doing this time?" Elder Chu was also confused. He took out his voice transmission talisman and told Master Bailey about what had happened. Master Bailey was currently in a terrible state because of the invasion of the Yen clan. He did not have the time to deal with Yun Chujio, the troublemaker. He thought to himself that it would be good to lock this fellow in the Cave of Reflection for at least 2 months. As for the safety issue, this fellow did not die when the Earth Dragon turned over. The Cave of Reflection on the 16th was a piece of cake for her. If she was willing to go, then so be it. After obtaining the approval of Master Bailey, Manager Zhong returned with his hands on his stomach. Yun Chujio beat up a fellow disciple and threatened a law enforcement officer. The circumstances were vile. Number 16 was punished with 2 months of reflection. Yi Bingying and Fan Mingchuan picked a fight and caused trouble. The sect's resources were punished for a year. Alright, disperse. Yi Bingying and Fan Mingchuan were furious. They were clearly the plaintiffs, alright? Why were they being punished? Although Yun Chujio was severely punished, it was her own request. Furthermore, looking at her happy expression, she didn't look like she was going to be punished. Instead, she looked like she was going to receive a reward. Yun Chujio followed the law enforcement disciples to the reflection cave. A certain Jio who was guarding the reflection cave had left his post without permission. A certain Jio who was refining pills in the reflection cave on the 14th had attracted thunder. The certain Jio ran straight to the Mixed Yuan Square. He had not released Yun Chujio first, so he had been dismissed. The head who guarded the reflection cave now was sent over, but this disciple had heard of the name of a certain Jio who specialized in the reflection cave. The head received the law enforcement department's document and looked at it. His eyes immediately widened. The 16th reflection cave? Wasn't this Yun Chujio only at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm? If she was locked in a certain Jio, she wouldn't be able to last more than 2 hours, right? However, these weren't things that he could control. Thus, after activating the teleportation array, he sent a certain Jio into a certain Jio. A certain Jio entered a certain Jio, and sadly discovered that there weren't any lightning or wind blades inside. Could it be that the last time she had a breakthrough in a certain Jio, she had implicated the 14th and 16th, causing them to malfunction? If there's nothing else, don't come out and wander around. A certain Jio felt a little guilty. She was afraid that Master Bailey would really pursue the matter of the spirit energy ball, so she agreed and ran away. Master Bailey touched his forehead and went to the place where the spirit power ball was located. Sure enough, the spirit power ball had begun to dissipate. He couldn't help but shake his head. It was really caused by that little girl. I don't know what she did in the meditation cave to cause such a huge mass of spiritual energy. Master Bailey had just received a voice transmission talisman from Alliance Master Yen of Sky-Bearing Alliance, so he threw this matter aside. Otherwise, the good deed that a certain Jio had done in the meditation cave might have been exposed. A certain Jio, who had been sent back to the dormitory, had been quiet for a few days. Then, she quietly began to wander around here again. This fellow was actually very helpless. It had been a long time since he had been struck by lightning. Other than entering the reflection cave to absorb the power of lightning, she really couldn't think of any other good ideas, but she couldn't say to Master Bailey, "Hey, I want to go into the reflection cave to be a demon. Quickly let me in." Hei Xinjiu was wandering around when she received a message from En Linchuan. After En Linchuan returned to the primordial chaos sect, he was given a good lecture by Mountain Master En, so he went into hiding for a few days. When he was released that day, he went to the kitchen to look for Yun Chujio, but he missed her. As soon as the two of them met, Yun Chujio complained that she was extremely bored. And Lin Chuan said, "Junior sister Xiao Jiao, let's go. We have a good place at Yaoguang Peak. I guarantee that you will like it." Yun Chujio immediately followed En Linchuan to Yaoguang Peak. As En Linchuan was the son of Mountain Master and of Yaoguang Peak, he was very popular among the female disciples of Yaoguang Peak. When the female disciples saw that En Linchuan was very attentive to Yun Chujio, they immediately looked at Yun Chujio with sharp eyes. A certain Jiao was already immune to such gazes. She was only interested in the good place En Linchuan mentioned. Yun Chujio followed En Linchuan to the back mountain of Yaoguang Peak. Yun Chujio muttered, "Senior, and you're not thinking of taking me to Jingxin Cave, are you? Junior sister Xiao Jiao, have you lost your mind? Jingxin Cave has already been destroyed. There's no more Jingxin Cave." And Lin Chuan pouted. Only then did Yun Chujio remember that when the earth dragon turned over, Jingxin Cave had already been turned into ruins. "Then where are you taking me? What else can be fun at the back of the mountain of Yaoguang Peak? Is it barbecuing meat at the back of the mountain? Or catching fish?" Yun Chujio asked as she looked around. "You'll know when you get there." And Lin Chuan said mysteriously. Seeing that he was keeping her in suspense, Yun Chujio didn't ask any more questions. The two of them arrived near a cliff. After En Linchuan pushed away the thick vines, a hole appeared on the cliff, and Lin Chuan said proudly, "I found this when I was young. It's been so many years. No one has found it except for me." The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. "Senior brother, is this the dog hole you mentioned?" And Lin Chuan glared at her. "This is just an entrance. There's a world behind it. Follow me." When Yun Chujio heard that there was another world behind her, her eyes lit up immediately. She followed En Linchuan into the cave. After walking through the winding cave, the front suddenly opened up. A certain Jiao, who was initially very interested, really wanted to grab En Linchuan's neck and shout, "Are you talking about a pile of broken rocks? This should be a sinkhole." However, the hole on top was very small, and there were very few people on top. Therefore, this sinkhole had never been discovered. Of course, perhaps someone had already discovered it, but there were only rocks and rocks in this sinkhole. There wasn't even a single blade of grass, so no one mentioned it. And Lin Chuan said excitedly, "Junior sister little Jiao, did you see it? This is my secret territory. Besides me, you're the first one to come in. Of course, I also wanted to ask senior brother Shangguan to come, but he thought I was talking nonsense and was really ignorant." Yun Chujio really wanted to tell him that senior brother Shangguan was really wise. It was simply a waste of time to come to this lousy place. Instead of looking at these lousy rocks here, she might as well go and get blackmailed. Just as Yun Chujio was about to ridicule him, she heard En Linchuan say with a slightly downcast tone, "Junior sister little Jiao, I don't know how you got here when you were young. My mother didn't come early, and my father has always had high hopes for me. Since young, apart from cultivating, I've always cultivated. My childhood was simply a history of blood and tears." And Lin Chuan kicked the small stone on the ground and continued, "And am the son of the peak master of Alcade Peak, so my every move is watched. If I do anything wrong, my father will punish me. So when I found this place, I felt that this was a compensation from God. This is a place where I can be myself." Yun Chujio was stunned. And Lin Chuan looked so heartless. She didn't expect him to have a sad childhood. "Fortunately, I have this place to vent the depression and dissatisfaction in my heart. I didn't go crazy or become a puppet who only knows how to cultivate," and Lin Chuan said self-deprecatingly. "Junior sister Xiao Jiao, you are different to me," and Lin Chuan said and looked at Yun Chujio seriously. Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. It was over. Could it be that this guy was going to confess? Damn it, she was most afraid of her best friend suddenly confessing. If this happened, they wouldn't be able to be friends anymore. Yun Chujio coughed twice. She quickly said, "Cough, cough. That's senior brother, and although I'm devastatingly beautiful, talented, and outstanding, I already have someone I like. It's the one who saved us before, the one who was so arrogant." And Lin Chuan was dumbfounded. "Junior sister little Gio, I want to say that you're my best friend." "Ah, sister, that's not right either. In short, you're my life and death friend. Did you misunderstand something just now?" "Ha, I know. You're killing me. You don't think that I like you, do you? Why would I like a crazy girl like you who doesn't have any feminine qualities?" Yun Chujio, how embarrassing. She wanted to dig a hole and hide in it, but why did she break it? However, this fellow had always been thick-skinned, and it was only a moment of awkwardness. Then he laughed and said, "That's good, that's good. I've always been attracted to peach blossoms, and every place I go, there are many suitors. I'm also preparing for a rainy day, so it's good that I don't like it. Otherwise, I'll have to find an excuse to reject you. How troublesome." And Lin Chuan, the two of them looked at each other awkwardly. After a moment of silence, they both laughed. And Lin Chuan pointed at a few larger stones and said, "These are all my subjects. When I was young, every time my father scolded me, I would tell them things. Although they can't speak, they are the best listeners. They can also be said to be my friends. I still remember one time, Yun Chujio listened to Lin Chuan's chattering and playing with a few small stones. Then, she said with a strange voice, "Senior brother, and these don't seem to be stones." And Lin Chuan was complaining about his childhood trauma. When he heard Yun Chujio's words, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he laughed so hard that he almost suffocated. "Junior sister Xiao Jio, are you still asleep? Don't tell me you don't recognize stones? What are these if not stones?" Yun Chujio glanced at him and then said faintly, "Bones?" And Lin Chuan almost sat down on the ground and stammered, "Junior sister Xiao Jio, don't scare me. These are obviously stones. How can they be bones? How can there be bones that are as long as stones? This is because it has been too long and has been weathered into stones. If you don't believe me, look carefully, you can still see the traces of bone marrow on the bones." Yun Chujio picked up a stone for Lin Chuan to look at carefully. And Lin Chuan took the rock that Yun Chujio handed to him and took a closer look. As expected, he found something fishy. Sometimes, the truth was just a piece of paper that could not be seen without being exposed. When he found out the truth, he felt suspicious no matter how he looked at it. And Lin Chuan picked up a few more rocks and took a look. Finally, he ran to observe the few big rocks. Then, he was horrified to find that they were all really bones. And Lin Chuan asked with a trembling voice, "Junior sister Xiao Jio, do you think these bones belong to humans or beasts?" Yun Chujio held the rolling pin and pulled for a while, then said, "I really can't tell, but those big bones definitely don't belong to humans." "Junior sister Xiao Jio, why do you think there are so many bones here? Let's hurry up and report it to the sect leader." And Lin Chuan felt a chill run down his spine when he recalled that the person he had confided to in his childhood was actually a pile of bones. It's not too late to report this later. Let's look around first. What if there is some treasure buried here? A certain Jio was not even afraid of the Yama Palace. These bones were a piece of cake. Besides, if these bones were in danger, Lin Chuan, this idiot, would not be alive and kicking until now. "Junior sister Xiao Jio, it's not that I want to say this, but you are such a money grubber. These are all bones, how could there be any treasures?" Although Lin Chuan said so, he was already used to listening to Yun Chujio's arrangements. Thus, he could only take out his sword and start to pull the small bones on the ground. The two of them pulled for a long time, but they didn't find any so-called treasures. Yun Chujio touched her chin and looked at the few large bones. Suddenly, a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. She instructed Lin Chuan to move the few large bones together. The gaps were actually tightly sewn together. After the two of them put the large bones together, they were surprised to find that these large bones were actually a skull. To be exact, it was the skull of a fish. This This is actually the skull of a fish? Those small bones must be the bones of a fish. No wonder they are all small bones. But why would such a big fish's bones appear in the inner land of our primordial chaos sect? And Lin Chuan was extremely surprised. Yun Chujio rubbed her chin and thought for a while. This is nothing strange. The world has changed. The primordial chaos sect is now the inner land. Perhaps tens of thousands of years ago, it was the sea. Besides, what is the name of the city next to the primordial chaos sect? Ninghai City? Ninghai City. Yes, isn't Ninghai meant to pray for the peace of the sea? Could it be that this place was really the sea in the past? And Lin Chuan felt that his brain was not enough. Maybe. Since we have nothing to do, let's try and see if we can piece together a complete skeleton. Yun Chujio was also bored. As she spoke, she actually started to look for slightly larger bones and started to piece them together. And Lin Chuan was also a nonsensical person. He actually thought that this suggestion was not bad. If they could really make a skeleton, this could be considered as an explanation for his lost childhood. The two were bored to death. After fighting for a few days, they finally managed to make a rough outline. After all, there were some small bones that could not be determined. This was the skeleton of a giant fish that was about 500 feet long, and there were many sharp teeth bones. It could be deduced that this was a very powerful sea beast. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Yun Chujio and Lin Chuan looked at the skeleton of the big fish and felt a sense of accomplishment. Junior Sister Jio, I've been thinking for the past few days. Maybe the big fish was swimming in the sea at that time, and then the mountain suddenly collapsed and the earth cracked, and it was trapped in the mountain rocks. The hole in the sky above was formed when the big fish jumped and hit it, and the gap at the side was probably formed in the same way. However, it was exhausted and couldn't escape in the end. It could only blame its own bad luck, and Lin Chuan said as he leaned against the stone wall and looked at the hole on top of his head. Yun Chujio didn't say anything. The world had changed. This big fish might have been an overlord in the sea back then. Didn't it also become a skeleton like this in the end? So, what was the purpose of living? Sooner or later, they would die. Why did they have to work so hard to cultivate? It was better to die early. After Lin Chuan finished speaking, he did not hear Yun Chujio speak for a long time. He turned around and saw Yun Chujio looking at the big fish skeleton with a dull look in her eyes. And Lin Chuan was shocked. Junior Sister Xiaojio? Junior Sister Xiaojio? Yun Chujio still did not respond. She looked at the big fish skeleton in a daze. And Lin Chuan panicked. He couldn't care less about the defenses between men and women. He used his hand to pull Yun Chujio's arm. Junior Sister Xiaojio, what happened to you? Don't scare me. Yun Chujio only regained her senses after being pulled by him. She was shocked. Why did she have such negative thoughts just now? This didn't seem like her personality at all. Why did people live? There were thousands of reasons. They could be family, friendship, love, or self-improvement and realization. They could also be for a certain spirit. Living was the greatest happiness for a person. Therefore, why did she have such a negative thought that she would die sooner or later? Could it be a Guai Chao? The Guai Chao in her dantian kept swinging its leaves. This time, it really was not its doing. Ever since this fellow saw that Yun Chujio didn't have the heart to kill it in Yun Chujio's illusion, this fellow had already eliminated the last bit of evil intention. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and looked at the big fish skeleton. Could it be that it was the culprit? However, she looked at Lin Chuan beside her. If it was the big fish skeleton, why was this idiot unaffected? Yun Chujio looked at it and finally found the crux of the problem. The only difference between her and Lin Chuan was that Lin Chuan had been sitting by the side of the stone wall, while she had been sitting on a stone. This stone had been buried under many bones. Yun Chujio and Lin Chuan had exposed it when they were cleaning the bones. Yun Chujio had checked it before. This stone was really just a stone and not a fish bone, so she had not touched it. And Lin Chuan saw Yun Chujio staring at the stone, so he came over. Junior Sister Xiaojio, is there anything wrong with this stone? Yun Chujio wanted to do an experiment, so she said, "Senior brother, and sit on this stone and look at the big fish skeleton. See what it feels like." And Lin Xuan didn't understand. He sat on the big stone in a daze and looked at the big fish skeleton in front of him. At first, this guy was still at a loss. When he looked at it, his expression became a little depressed. His eyes were dazed. Yun Chujio had basically confirmed what she was thinking. She pulled Lin Xuan up from the rock and shouted a few times. And Lin Xuan was still unable to wake up. Yun Chujio had no choice but to give this guy a fierce kick. And Lin Xuan exclaimed, "Junior sister Jio, why did you kick me?" "Senior brother, and what were you thinking when you looked at the big fish skeleton just now?" And Lin Xuan rubbed his nose. "I don't have any thoughts. I just feel that there's no meaning in living." "However, junior sister Jio, that's definitely not what I think. I haven't married and had children yet. I still have to travel all over the immortal essence continent. How could I feel that there's no meaning in living?" Yun Chujio nodded. "I had the same thoughts as you just now. It seems that there's something wrong with this stone. Sitting on it would also cause me to have negative emotions." "There is a stone with such an effect? Oh my God, could it be that the big fish from before died because of this stone?" And Lin Xuan shouted. Yun Chujio squatted down and looked at the stone carefully. "It is not impossible. I have seen a description of a stone that is very similar to it in ancient books. That stone is called the Dead Stone. People who get close to it will have negative emotions. Junior sister Xiao Jio, since this stone is so strange, why don't you stay away from it? Why are you so close to it? Get up, it'll destroy it." And Lin Xuan said as he pulled Yun Chujio away. Before Yun Chujio could react, this guy threw a palm strike at the stone. And Lin Xuan used all his strength in this palm strike. Unfortunately, not only was there not a single crack on the stone, it didn't even move. The stone was fine, but Lin Xuan's face had turned dull again. Yun Chujio couldn't help but laugh. She had no choice but to kick Lin Xuan again. And Lin Xuan fell to the ground, and only then did he wake up. "Senior brother, you'd better stay far away. I'll study it again," Yun Chujio said with a smile. And Lin Xuan laughed awkwardly. "Junior sister Xiao Jio, weren't you also affected by it previously? Why aren't you affected now?" "I've learned from my mistakes. Besides, I'm on guard now, so it won't affect me so easily," Yun Chujio said nonchalantly. And Lin Xuan was obviously not convinced, so he moved closer to the stone and fell into a daze again. Yun Chujio had no choice but to give him another kick. "Junior sister Xiao Jio, can't you find another way to wake me up? Why must you kick me?" And Lin Xuan muttered as he rubbed his butt. Yun Chujio ignored him. She felt that there was something fishy about this dead stone. Even if it was very strong, and Lin Xuan's palm just now could not move it at all. When Yun Chujio thought of this, she took out her pickaxe and began to dig around the dead stone. The more she dug, the more frightened she became. This dead stone looked like a small piece on the surface, but underneath it was a very large piece. What was exposed above was just a small tip. And Lin Xuan didn't dare to get too close. He even put a basin of cold water on the ground. When he felt dizzy, he stuck his head into the basin, and then he could wake up. As he looked at it, he could see the trick. He said in surprise, "Junior sister Xiao Jio, that broken stone looks like a statue." Yun Chujio was too close to it, so she really couldn't see it. She took a few steps back to take a look. It was true. The part that she had dug out looked like the part above a person's forehead. Yun Chujio continued to dig, and the more she dug, the more shocked she became. This statue was wearing a mask, and it was actually very similar to the shit owner that she saw in the cave of the human-faced octopus, or it could be said that it was the same person. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Although the stone sculpture had rough lines, it had a charm that made people submit to it. If Lin Xuan had not plunged his head into the basin, he would have already knelt down and kowtowed. Yun Chujio frowned. These fish bones had been petrified for at least tens of thousands of years. At that time, there was already a statue of this dog shit owner, which further proved that the Divine Devil Hall had existed before. At least this shitty lord did exist. Didn't this mean that the shitty lord of the Divine Devil Temple had lived for tens of thousands of years? However, it was also true. Since he could tear through the void, it was very likely that he had the cultivation of a god. It was not surprising that he had lived for tens of thousands of years. Previously, there were murals in the cave of the human-faced octopus. Now, there was a statue at the bottom of the sea. Could it be that the Divine Devil Temple's power was mainly in the sea? Yun Chujio thought of the mermaid man again. The mermaids lived in the sea. Could their extermination be related to the Divine Devil Temple? And Lin Chuan saw that Yun Chujio did not speak for a long time and thought that she was affected by the dead silent stone. In a moment of desperation, he poured a basin of water on Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio almost gasped. Just as she was about to teach Lin Chuan a lesson, she was surprised to find that some of the water that had been poured on the ground was seeping down through the cracks beside the statue. To be precise, it didn't seem like it was seeping into the statue, but rather, it seemed like it was flowing down. Could it be that the bottom was empty? Just as Yun Chujio thought of this, the big fish skeleton suddenly collapsed. And Lin Chuan was unlucky enough to be right under the big fish skeleton. As he dodged, he shouted, "Junior sister Xiao Jiao, quickly dodge." Yun Chujio also quickly dodged to the side. The big fish skeleton had smashed into the stone statue. She didn't know what mechanism it had smashed into, but a dazzling red light flashed past. And Lin Chuan and Yun Chujio didn't have the time to react, they disappeared on the spot. Not only them, even the stone statue had disappeared without a trace. There were only bones scattered all over the ground. Right, there was also an Lin Chuan's basin that had fallen on the ground. As Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu were in closed-door cultivation, Mountain Master and rarely summoned and Lin Chuan apart from lecturing. Therefore, after these two disappeared for a few days, it was Shangguan Hao who discovered that the two of them had disappeared. Therefore, after much investigation, a female disciple from Alcade Peak said that Yun Chujio and Lin Chuan had gone to the back mountain of Alcade Peak for a few days in a row. Furthermore, they had an intimate attitude towards each other. Could it be that they had eloped? Mountain Master and almost fainted from anger. This useless brat. Learning from the good without learning from the bad. In the past, he only didn't cultivate properly. Now, he actually learned to elope? Mountain Master and looked at the furious Mountain Master Bailey and stroked his forehead. Mountain Master and calmed down. Even if the two of them really had that intention, they wouldn't go so far as to elope. There should be a misunderstanding. Let's properly search the back mountain of Alcade Peak. When Mountain Master and heard Mountain Master Bailey's words, he calmed down slightly. After thinking about it, it made sense. He didn't object to that bastard being in love. There was no need for him to elope out of the Primordial Chaos sect. He was really out of his mind. Mountain Master and hurriedly arranged for everyone to search the back of the mountain of Alcade Peak, but to no avail. In the end, it was still Shangguan Hao who remembered that Lin Chuan had once said that there was a secret territory of his at the back of the mountain of Alcade Peak. After searching carefully, he finally found the cave behind the thick vines. Everyone saw the wash basin at a glance, but they weren't as careful as Yun Chujio. They only thought that the ground was filled with rocks. Shangguan Hao picked up the wash basin on the ground and looked at it. This wash basin belongs to Junior Brother and I've seen it before. He couldn't have left it here for no reason. Could something have happened to him and Junior Sister Gio? When everyone heard Shangguan Hao's words, they immediately became worried. However, no matter how much they thought about it, they could not understand why there was a wash basin here all of a sudden. After speculating about it, they finally came to a conclusion. The two of them were probably too rushed when they were captured. They threw out something casually to remind them that it happened to be a wash basin. However, the Primordial Chaos sect was heavily guarded. How could the two of them be captured? Where were they taken to? Everyone searched for a while but did not find anything unusual. In the end, everyone focused their attention on the top of the sinkhole. Could it be that the person had left from above? However, if the two of them were captured alive, it was impossible for them not to be discovered. Moreover, the top of the sinkhole was within the range of the mountain behind the Alcade Peak. Even if the person was riding a sword, it was impossible for them not to be discovered. No matter how hard they thought, they could not understand. They could only send people to search the sect and its surroundings. However, Yun Chujio and En Linchuan seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There was not a single trace left behind. At this moment, the two people who had been eloped felt as if they were in a world of ice and fire. A certain Jio was in high spirits. She was so happy that she was dancing with joy. On the other hand, the miserable En Linchuan felt that he would only be able to live for another day if he was picked up. The place where the two of them were at now was covered in fog, and there was no end to it. The ground was filled with rocks made from the bones of sea beasts, which were similar to the fish bones that the two of them had seen before. En Linchuan sat on a large bone with his head drooping. He said with his head drooping, "Sigh. Junior Sister Jio, if I had known that the object of my childhood was a pile of bones, I wouldn't have brought you to that crappy cave. If we hadn't entered that crappy cave, we wouldn't have been trapped here. It's all my fault." A certain Jio said while nibbling on the spirit fruit, "Senior brethren, I think this place is pretty good. It's so quiet here, and no one dislikes me. It's much better than being in the primordial chaos sect." And Linchuan smiled, but his smile was even uglier than crying. "Little ninth junior sister, are you sure this place is quiet? It's over, here it comes again. Little ninth junior sister, quick, protect me." When En Linchuan first asked Yun Chujio to protect him, he was still a little embarrassed. Now, it had become very easy to talk about it. In order to survive, he should just let it go to hell. The fog had begun to slowly disperse, and deafening voices came from all directions. "Have you thought it through? Are you loyal to your master?" "Loyal to your grandmother, my foot. Get out of my way. Let us out of here quickly, or I will scold you 8 times a day." Yun Chujio placed her hands on her hips and pointed at the sky while scolding. "Impudent! You yellow-mouthed child, you speak insolently. You are courting death." Boom, boom, boom. Several bolts of lightning struck at Yun Chujio and En Linchuan. Hei Xinjiu was overjoyed and jumped up and down to get struck by the lightning while protecting En Linchuan from being struck by the heavenly lightning. En Linchuan supported himself with his spiritual energy shield. He looked at the busy Yun Chujio with a dumbfounded expression. He had known that this junior sister of his was sick, but he had never expected her to be so sick. The more he was struck by the lightning, the happier he became. If this wasn't sick, what was it? Even if it was a heavenly lightning spiritual root, it shouldn't be so sick, right? Just as En Linchuan was in a daze, he heard Yun Chujio say, "Xiao Hei, Xiao Mogu, I'll leave this idiot to you." En Linchuan was still in a daze when he saw a fat bird and Xiao Mogu beside him. En Linchuan almost cried. What did junior sister Xiao Jio mean? Was she not going to care about him? "Junior sister Xiao Jio, you can't do this. I'm your senior brother. You can't just ignore me." En Linchuan grinned and almost hugged Yun Chujio's thigh. Yun Chujio looked at him speechlessly. "Senior brother, and don't worry. The two of them are enough to protect you." En Linchuan looked at the left side of the fat has been like an old hen, that dark autumn bird, and looked at the right side of Xiao Mogu has not fist-sized. These two things can protect him? You got to be kidding me. At this moment, a bolt of lightning as thick as an adult's arm struck down at En Linchuan. En Linchuan quickly reinforced another layer of spiritual energy shield. Although the effect was probably limited, it was still much better than being hacked into charcoal. Just as En Linchuan was preparing for battle, he saw the fat bird flapping its 2 short wings and pouncing at the lightning, swallowing it. En Linchuan had already predicted what would happen next. This fat bird would turn into a roasted chicken, but in the end, nothing happened to the fat bird. It even spoke in human language. Again. I've been hungry for many days." En Linchuan's mind was blank. 2 sentences flashed through his mind. This fat bird can swallow lightning. This fat bird can speak human language. Before he could digest these 2 sentences, another lightning bolt struck down. Xiao Mogu on the right stretched out a long mycelium and snatched the lightning away from the fat bird. Xiao Mogu, you stole my lightning again. Are you looking for a beating? The fat bird said angrily with one wing on its waist and the other pointing at Xiao Mogu. And Lin Chuan's eyes twitched. The way this fat bird scolded Xiao Mogu was exactly the same as Xiao Hanyo. Following that, Lin Chuan watched as Xiao Hanyo and Xiao Mogu fought over a bolt of lightning. It was as if the terrifying lightning bolt was incomparably delicious to them. He had really seen a ghost. And Lin Chuan was initially surprised, but he had become numb to it. Xiao Hanyo was a pervert, and her spiritual pet was also a pervert. No wonder she rarely released her spiritual pet. No wonder she despised the little bastard. It was true. With such a perverted spiritual pet, she naturally despised the little bastard. After a while, the heavenly lightning ended, and the fog spread again. And Lin Chuan heaved a sigh of relief. Although he had Xiao Hanyo and Xiao Mogu to protect him, he was still a little scared when he saw the terrifying heavenly lightning. Yun Chujio sighed faintly. Sigh. Can't this lightning strike for a while longer? This little thing isn't even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. And Lin Chuan, he seemed to understand why junior sister Jio said that this place was pretty good. It was because this pervert seemed to like being struck by lightning. A thought flashed through his mind. Junior sister Jio had been locked in the cave of reflection many times. Could it be because of the lightning in the cave of reflection? And Lin Chuan stood up at the thought of this and pointed at Yun Chujio with a trembling finger. Junior sister Xiao Jio, do you have a way to get out, but you don't plan to get out because of the lightning? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Senior brother, and you're thinking too much. I really have no way to get out now. This guy emphasized the word, now, and added silently in his heart. This place was so good, why did he have to think of a way to get out? He would think of a way to get out when there was no more lightning. And Lin Chuan did not know the twists and turns in this guy's heart. Seeing how sincere Yun Chujio's words were, he believed her and said guiltily, Junior sister Xiao Jio, I was just saying that. Don't take it to heart. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.